All right. Today we're gonna go. We're gonna go into the Wayback Machine. I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of gameplay footage of Survival: The Lost Era. Survival was the sequel to my original game Survival that came out way back in 2001, long before the days of Minecraft, Terraria, and the slew of other survival and sandbox building games that have come since then. I'm not positive, but Survival could be the OG in the survival game space, at least as far as online games go. So this is the startup screen with an awful logo done with the papyrus font. I know it's terrible. Anyways, we're going to select a character. And we're just going to wait for the computer to lag out for no reason at all. It's just been happening a lot today. So we'll select Politrite, and we'll just get logged right in. So you can see right off the bat, the graphics are messy, to say the least. Obviously, this is an older style. It's all just a top-down tile-based game. But the gameplay for the time when this game came out was extremely innovative. This was one of the first games where you could build free-form housing on the terrain. So here I've got a little house, and of course like I said, the graphics, they are what they are. But you kind of walk around, close your door. You could give other people access to your door. So bandits and thieves could not get inside your house. A lot of times you would go inside your house and leave some of your stuff on the ground or put your items in a chest, and you wouldn't want bandits to get a hold of them. Survival was a game just about surviving against the wilderness. There were beasts and stuff, and you had to. We'll just hoe some ground here. We'll see if we can plant some seeds. Looks like we are bad at hoeing, apparently. You can see here, this is a question mark. That's some developer graphics for you. So we'll just go ahead and plant some cabbage seed here. And plant some turnip seed here. If I recall correctly, you don't actually have to water the seeds. I think they just grow over time. I could be crazy. We'll just pop open the wood crafting menu. I'm just looking to see if there was like a watering can or something like that. I don't see anything like that. It's been a very long time since I booted up Survival. Like I said, the original version came out back in, I think, 2001. It might have been 2002. But anyways, those seeds will eventually come to fruition. You can go over here, cut down a tree. You can see that it removed the wooden hoe, automatically equipped the axe for me. And success, only 4 more chops to go. Great. So we'll just do this. The animation is something else right here. You have to look quick because the animation happens fast. Oh, we failed. Couple more chops to go. The grind was real on Survival. A lot of players would log in and you would grind resources. Wow, look at that animation. We did some little things with the tile engine. For example, you can walk on the stump here and you get elevated. Same with this, and come back down. It also was interesting because, I'm towing the log. I don't know what that means. Oh, I can drag the log behind me. Totally forgot about that. Can I put it back down? What if I just want to chop the log? I bet if I equip the axe. Oh, it was already equipped. I'm a noob. Anyways, we'll chop the log. I think you used to be able to do this by just clicking. I've also got a bunch of administrator commands here. I could like destroy it or clone it or edit it live, some things like that. But basically, I'm just collecting some lumber. I've already got a bunch. I've got 151, but we'll just collect it till it's gone. And there we go. So I think from that we got 13 pieces of lumber, looks like total. There was also some other things you could do. You could gather. I'm gathering some black pepper. Of course, that was used for culinary stuff, cooking food. And you can see up here we've got a health bar and a stamina bar. Actually, that's not mana. Stamina was basically the all-encompassing stat for whether you're going to die or not. If you run out of stamina, you would die. If you run out of health, you'd also die, but it's very easy to run out of stamina because you'd lose stamina for many different things, for fighting enemies or just doing whatever. Oh, it's raining now. How exciting. But yeah, we'll go down in this hole. And this was the underground world. The world of survival was 2 vertical layers. There was the underground and there was the above ground. So let's equip this wooden pickaxe. And I think we're just able to run directly into the wall. Just dug a little bit. Looks like my computer's doing a little bit more lag. Not sure what's up with that. Don't think it's related to the game at all. This is kind of neat because you got to build some freeform tunnels. And it did kind of the auto tiling effect you see there, and would automatically select the appropriate looking graphics for the new terrain. And you could go down in here, you would discover gems and so forth that you could use for enchanting. Survival didn't really have magic. It had mysticism. Let me close the inventory panel and I'll show you here. And the mysticism was just a way to have some kind of magical type effects, but without all of the preconceived notions of, oh, there's magic, I better be able to cast a fireball, you know. And so you can see here, this is the skill panel, and we did something interesting with the skills. So you had a level in the skill. So I have 5 in survival. You can see I have a ton in woodworking, level 18. And then you have your mastery. I think it's actually called proficiency. I can't remember off the top of my head. But what happened was, focus. So if your focus for a skill was set to locked, that means that your focus would sit here at 80%. If it was set to increase, that meant that it could increase. But in order for one skill to increase, you had to have some other skills that you would decrease. So you can see here that I've pretty much opted out of culinary arts and tailoring, and those masteries are very low so that I can beef up some of these other masteries. And so what that allowed is kind of some customization temporarily of your character, but without giving up basically the ability to use those other skills forever. Because we wanted players to be self-sufficient but not self-experts in every category, which is a problem that a lot of classless systems run into. So this was the mechanism that we used. Then we got, I think we had a basic crafting menu. I could create a fire. Let's try that. I may not have rocks. Oh, that's right. You can't build underground. So we'll go back above ground. It's still raining out here. Let me see if I can find a rock. Oh, it looks like the cabbage has grown. Let's harvest that. Oh, I made a mistake and ruined the plant. That's awful game design right there. Do you see that? Very frustrating. I harvested the turnip in 3 seeds, so now I can plant 3 more seeds instead of just the one that I had. Let me pop open the inventory. We'll grab this rock. Grab another rock. Now I think we should be able to make a fire. Amusingly, we'll be able to make a fire, I believe, right here in the rain. Yeah, it's fine. Oh no, the rain put the fire out. That's too funny. I didn't even know that's a thing. Yeah, you can see the lighting effect here. It's kind of a weird tile-based lighting, but it definitely did make the game scarier because there would be wild animals off the screen, and their aggro radius was the screen. So if you approached them, they would come charging at you, and you'd have no idea until they're right here. And some of the animals were really brutal, like a bear. I mean, just a simple bear, it took probably 4 players to take down a bear because players didn't really, the combat skills didn't really scale in the sense that oh, I can now beat an orc, and I can beat a bear, and eventually I can beat a giant lava golem. It didn't work like that. These combat and shielding, they scaled well versus other players. So if you had, like a 40 combat, you'd be really good at PvPing and hurting other players. But your ability to take down a bear was still limited. So it was a little more realistic than a lot of games where you just kind of gain power arbitrarily and you're able to beat things that no human would actually ever be able to beat. So yeah, it was pretty interesting, and there was a lot of emphasis on exploring the game world. Like here, we can see a cave wall. Looks like the rain's clearing up as the sun's coming up as well. Oh, so this is actually just a grass inside. This isn't really a cave. It's kind of just like rock formations out in the world. But it was cool because players would adopt this as their house, and so they would actually build their walls off of these natural walls and stuff like that. And one of the really interesting things about survival for me as a designer was watching communities form. Because of the skill system denoting that, hey, I'm only really going to be excellent at one or two things at a time, players really wanted to band together so that people could take advantage of, the superior tailoring of one of their friends, or the superior blacksmithing that somebody else in the village could provide. And so players would actually build little towns, and each player would have a house, and they would have the appropriate items for their trade skills inside their houses. And what that also did was that would attract bandits, because there'd be so many houses that the likelihood of being able to guard everything all the time was going to diminish. And so bandits could get in there and attempt to thieve items away, or attempt to vandalize the houses. You can actually see here, vandalize is actually a thing that you could do, and that would slowly break down walls over time. So if you found an abandoned building with a bunch of goodies inside, you could eventually break your way through the wall, get in there, and steal those goodies. And so because of that bandit lifestyle that emerged from the towns themselves then needed guards, player guards that would boost their own combat and shielding in order to combat the bandits. And so it really was an interesting study at the time. And I was a lot younger. I think I was 19 when this game came out. And it was really an interesting study in emergent gameplay, things that I had never anticipated as a developer coming out of this game. And so we'll go swimming here. We had little graphics for swimming. I think actually, if I come up here, I can probably build a raft. We'll cook up a raft real quick. Takes a while. This weird notation is actually the amount of game ticks. I believe it was a 10 tick cycle, 10 ticks per second on the server, 10 hertz. Oh wow, that really plummeted my tailoring. I believe that was at 63%. Now it's at 50%. And my woodworking gained a level as well. So now I think, now that I have the raft equipped or in my inventory, I can just drag it out here. Yep, and then I can just board the raft. It's funny because I still walk. But yeah, this was a much faster way to get around. And you didn't... So if you're running from a bandit or something like that, running from combat, you would throw your raft on and go on the water, and they'd have to fiddle around and get their own raft out. But yeah, survival was a really interesting learning experience for me. It taught me a lot about managing game communities, and taught me a lot about just server maintenance. Like, you would find the whole world was persistent, so all of the structures and so forth that players built would persist for all of time, and eventually the map would get clogged up with leftover buildings that just couldn't be vandalized fast enough because the vandalization periods were quite long. And so, it taught me a lot about maintaining the game world and figuring out how to cull some of those older buildings, as well as just the need for, in a game like this, the sandbox style. And you see this replayed in modern games like Minecraft, where servers will just have a restart every few months because, out with the old and in with the new. So we had to develop a bunch of kind of maintenance type things. Like here are the player save files, and these were all saved in plain text so that I could actually come in here and I could actually change the woodworking level if I wanted to. But if a player had a bugged save file or something, oftentimes we would have to come in here and rectify their save file and then do the appropriate code fixes elsewhere. You can see here there's some gibberish here. I believe this is a base64 encoded image. Woo, that's pretty big. And I think those are just different. It's the mouse drag pointer. I later learned that you didn't have to have all this stuff saved to the file. This is a 100 kilobyte save file, which is pretty big for a single player, especially when you compare that to how we store player data in a real database, SQL or so forth nowadays, and the couple rows of your character across different tables would add up to a fraction of that data. But yeah, and the same thing was true of the map itself. And I'm not sure if I have a copy of the map. Let's take a look here. Yeah, this was a custom serialization format that I came up with. It basically said there's one weed at this XY coordinates. And then there was a bunch of these were other fields that were used on some types of things like signs or permissions on doors. The owner, we can see that the owner's Nesaku and owner here is Yay. Just some other parameters. Brick racks, you had to cook your bricks in the sun and things like that. So all around, this game was a great learning experience. I loved making it. I loved running it, and I loved observing players and how they would interact and how communities would form and things like that. So there you go. That, in a nutshell, is Survival: The Lost Era. So thank you very much for tuning in.